basically a commercial style fire escape with legs to the ground, back onto a roof line. We have some issues that we have to discuss with the city official regarding the catwalk mats, as well as these catwalk mats, to make sure that even though this is a pre-existing non-conforming structure, that this is acceptable under the current certification process with the city official. With that being said, the fire escape here on the Mass Building Code 1001.3, we're looking to examine, which is what we're doing today, certify, or test. This fire escape has some structural issues and also has a paint issue. So at this time, it does not pass the confidence test, so we can neither certify it or proceed to a load test if one is required by this city. So I will discuss some of the issues in my walkthrough going down. So let's take a look at the easiest one first, paint. This fire escape is older than 1978. The EPA requirements now at this time during certification requires that it's older than 78, it's presumed to have lead, so the only one that can scrape and paint this fire escape must be an EPA certified renovator licensed person must touch this fire escape. So that's the first requirement that must be discussed if you have somebody painting this fire escape. The second issue that we have here is that the fire escape has some structural deficiencies which we need to discuss. And that is that there's corrosion inside some of the connections, and as I go down I'll discuss all the corrosion that needs to be discussed. And the city and the Mass Building Code requires one of three options now. We can spot repair this fire escape, and that means removing all the bad rusted areas, changing only the bad bolts and leaving behind original hardware, which consists of square head bolts like this, but they must be in good condition. Otherwise, you must remove any rust, and with that, if the city allows and accepts, an opinion certificate will be issued stating, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the remaining bolts and structures are covered under that disclaimer. And that is one of the issues that we'll discuss in that it's an opinion certificate with a disclaimer. The second option is to spot repair this fire escape, and in conversations with the city, they want to have a load test done. Again, it's depending on the city official, not us, whether or not they want it to be load tested as a requirement for certification or testing. And the third is to change all the bolts at this time, regardless of whether they have rust or not, change 100% of all the structure, remove all the fasteners and all the rust in the connections, seal the connections when you put the bolts back in, give this fire escape a paint job. Now there is no load test because that is the third option, and that is certification in lieu of a load test, and that is 100% full refurbishment. So now let's go down and discuss what's happening here. We do have rust and some evidence that bolts and the heads are missing. So nuts and bolts are starting to be rotted away. A lot of rust jacking going on. So let's go down, see the rust jacking in here. That means we have to change these bolts out. Original hardware. We've got rust in all the treads. So the treads are starting to split open, and that means you have to change. They're suspect. So you can either spot repair some of these treads or fully change all the bolts out on the treads. We recommend that the entire structure be done. The grating and the treads are subject to a rule, and that is, this is a component, and this has a rod inside here, and these are spacers, and as these rot out, these things open up and they catch people's feet. As these rot out, which we'll show further down on the fire escape, when these go out, this front falls out and it causes a tripping hazard. So a lot of these, in order for them to stay, we need to reinforce them with a flat underneath and reinforce the bars, so that way we can't weld. The EPA does not allow us to weld on fire escape, and this fire escape is an all bolted fire escape to begin with, so it's going to be an easy repair. So 100% of these treads have original hardware, but a lot of them are starting to show rust and expansion, so we need to deal with that. The grating, if the grating is to be guaranteed, we need to put a reinforcement. Otherwise, we can only offer an opinion. As you start getting into the rust, there's been some repairs done to this with just welding, and all these welds now need to be x-rayed or load tested. Otherwise, an opinion certificate can be issued if the city official will accept it. All these corners are hiding rust in the corners, and as you can see, major rust is happening in these corners, and it's rusting inside. So as we go further down, you're going to see quite a bit of rust on this fire escape. So going down the railings, as you can see, rust. As soon as you see rust, you got to pop the bolt, change it, silicone shut it, and put it back with a new bolt. As you can see, a lot of welded repairs. Welds have to be reinforced with a bolt, because otherwise you have to x-ray or load test. Otherwise you have to accept the disclaimer. Going down, as you can see, quite all original hardware, you're going to see here that there's more damage to these treads. These treads all have a 1/4 to 3/8 expansion, so some of these treads are ready to go, and I'll explain when I show you from underneath. Rust in all the railings. I'm concerned about these joiner plates. Look at all the rust inside these joiner plates, and it was never removed. It's worse on the other section over there that I'm about to show you. So these joiner plates and this one was never properly repaired, so they did this Mickey Mouse weld here, so you can't do this. This all has to be removed. And look how much corrosion is in here. There's over 3/4 of an inch of rust corrosion in here that was never properly repaired. So this is structurally unsound at this moment. There's rust building up between these plates here, and as you can see, it's starting to get into all the corners. The corners are all full of rust. Huge amount of rust in all the corners. And let's go down. You'll be able to see, going down these stairs, from above and from below, I'm going to show you some very bad situation here. Look how much gap there is there. Look how much gap there is. So that's 3/8 to 1/2 inch worth of rust. The one above is already going. The one below is already going. The one below that is already going. And look at the one below that is already going. So this is all probably the worst set of sections. So there is some emergency issues that you have on this fire escape. These are unstable stairs. So again, this fire escape does have quite a bit of nothing but original hardware. I see no evidence of maintenance other than emergency repairs here and there that I wouldn't classify as routine maintenance. It looks like it's the Band-Aids that came in. They left the rust inside, they just welded it, so that's not considered a correct repair. Look at this joiner plate. Again, instead of removing all the rust and changing the bolts, they just put in a Band-Aid with a weld. So, and look at that backside, totally rotted out. So this is again another unsafe structure. So this needs emergency repair on this structure. There's another joiner plate. Again, improper repair. Look at the splitting, the rust jacking happening there. Look on this side, same thing. So again, improper repairs on this fire escape has been the norm in its past. I don't see any evidence of routine maintenance. And again, there's not a paint job on this. So this paint job, in order for it to get this far without any with this much rust, you got to leave it alone for at least 10 to 15 years at least. Look at all these patches. See, a lot of patching. Look at the amount of corrosion in that and this patch job that they did. They just came in here and they kind of were concerned, and instead of fixing it, they just patched it up with welds. Look at that major corrosion in that corner, holding up the entire stringer. That's the bottom part of the stringer, totally rotted out. Okay. All these treads showing evidence, so at least 25 to 50% of each staircase has problems with growing rust in the connection. So you can spot repair and then proceed to a load test, or you can spot repair, proceed to an opinion letter if the city official accepts one, or you can go with a full refurb and avoid the load test altogether, and any and all liability will be removed from the city, from the owner, and from the inspecting or repairing company. Rust in the connections, rust in the corners, look at that. Look how much rust is in there. Huge buildup. So every one of these is suspect, as you can see. I mean, there's just a lot of rust buildup. Extreme amount. See this repair? Instead of removing all that rust here, what they did is just basically welded a bracket, an angle over it, and the welder was not even structural. It looks like it's just a single bead. So again, it's things like that. Instead of doing the proper repair, a Band-Aid came in, sold as a repair, and it's a non-structural repair. So this fire escape does have a requirement and a need for emergency repairs and some structural repairs as part of its certification requirement. It's going back down. We're starting to see it's all starting to repeat itself. Tread issues, grading issues, railings and corners. All your corners are full of debris and rusting out your C-channels. Those corners up above basically are growing because of the debris above, feeding it on a consistent basis. So this is what it looks like. And again, Band-Aids. Band-Aid here. Again, Band-Aid in the corner down below. So this is huge. When you look outside and you look down on it, look at the bulge. Look at all that rust. There's 3/8 to 1/2 inch rust inside it. Those bolts should have been taken out. It takes about 25 years to grow a 1/4 inch of rust, and that is more than what we have here. Look at the stringer connection. Look how much rust is there, from 1/4 to 3/4. So the top of the stringers of this staircase are basically being held by rust, tread issues. Okay? Gets worse as we keep going down. Okay, look at that. treads rusting from above. They're starting to split, see? Water and ice is getting in this, and rust jacking is popping these treads in every direction. Again, water getting behind here. Again, instead of cleaning this whole thing out, they just welded the top. Improper repairing. These are all band-aids. Look at all that rust. This fire escape has not seen any maintenance in its lifetime. That is what we would consider routine maintenance. But it has had plenty of band-aids thrown at it. Look at all the rust in there. You got the original bolts are still here, and you can definitely see a bulge. See, there's the flat, and it's bulging out here. This is a bulge right there. Rust, corners, stringers, treads, and it goes all the way down to the ground. So we'll get down to the ground now. Look at this, all blown out. Okay. So with that, look at this, not even repaired yet. See, the rust is still in there. They didn't even weld this one, but again, there's the bolt used to be here. So this is a perfect example. Here's the nut and the shaft. The head is gone. And the head is gone. See? So, a lot of bulging, rusted corners, treads. So it just repeats itself, all floors, grading. Look at that corner again, full of accumulated rust. It's rusting out the corners, rusting out the corners, rusting out the stringer right there, going down, rusted rails. Again, that bolts are gone, treads all the way. This catwalk system needs to be discussed. If this roof is a cement roof, these are allowed, but they sometimes require rails on either side. The city official will determine if this is going to be a pre-existing non-conforming fire escape system, and he'll allow that. But the main concern we have on a lot of these now is going to be your treads. As you get into these fire escapes, these treads start popping, and what happens is they'll let go of the front rail, the front nosing, and when you trip that's going to be a trip hazard, okay? They land on a roof, all original hardware. As you can see the bulge? So again, no evidence of maintenance, evidence of band-aids throughout this whole structure. Paint job is probably 10, 15 years ago. There was a paint job on this, if not more. Again, we'd have to determine that. And there's rust building up a lot of times between the building and the structure. The lead paint issue is a concern. Must be an EPA renovator. Some band-aids that are happening like this over here, which is basically, angles and flats and things thrown on here because that was probably rotted out. So, and then welds, which must be now x-rayed, but the rust still remains. So a lot of things that are not standard, industry standard repairs on here. This is part one. The second part will include the cantilever that's over there. Part one of the fire escape, which is to deal with this structure. The fire escape is not ready to go to a load test. The fire escape cannot be load tested at this time. The fire escape does have emergencies in that some of the connections are extreme due to rust jacking, and they need to have emergency repairs to make it functional until such time that permanent repairs take effect. The city official will determine whether or not they want engineer oversight throughout the entire repair of this structure. They will decide whether or not they want this to be permitted for the structural part of this. If this needs to be permitted, again, it'll be Tom St. Pierre will decide that piece, and the vendor of this project must have, be a properly licensed iron worker. This is a dangerous structure, and they got to know what you're doing so that nobody gets hurt. And the paint vendor must be EPA registered vendor to do and handling lead issues, and this fire escape does have lead. Any questions, fire escape engineers, inspector summary video.